The Jedi Temple burned in somber silence, its corridors stained with smoke and destruction. Yoda and Obi-Wan walked among the bodies of Padawans, their eyes heavy with what they witnessed. Upon finding the images recorded by the security cameras, they saw Anakin, now named by Palpatine as Darth Vader, massacring the younglings without mercy. Obi-Wan looked away, unable to bear it. Yoda closed his eyes and said in a low voice, "Stopped, he must be. Total darkness in him, I see." Obi-Wan, shaken, shook his head. "No, I cannot face him. He is like my brother." The weight of truth fell upon both, but Yoda knew that hesitation could cost the entire galaxy. "Difficult it is, but necessary it will be. Alone I will go." It was at that instant that the Master decided he would take upon himself the task of facing the Chosen One. Obi-Wan, still without strength to accept, merely murmured, "Then may the Force be with you." While Obi-Wan prepared to meet Padme in her apartment to find out where Anakin was, Yoda made a decision. He could not waste time trying to convince her or discuss. He needed to act quickly and reach Anakin before the dark side consumed him completely. Thus, he discreetly hid in Padme's ship, concealing his presence with the Force, waiting for the right moment to act. Padme, in tears, heard Obi-Wan beg her to tell him where Anakin was. "He turned his back on all of us. What do you think he's doing?" Obi-Wan said, his voice firm but full of pain. "I need to find him, Padme, before it's too late." She tried to cling to hope, repeating, "He's still the man I love. He cannot be completely lost." Obi-Wan knew this was a lie, but dared not say so. Upon boarding the ship bound for Mustafar, Padme believed she could still reach Anakin's heart. But hidden in the small shadow of the cargo compartment, Yoda traveled along, in silence. His mind was focused on the mission. Chosen One he was, now threat he has become. Confront him I must. He knew the confrontation would not only be physical, but also spiritual, against everything that had been corrupted within Skywalker. The ship cut through space, and Padme, in tears, caressed her belly, feeling the life growing inside her. "Anakin, please, there is still goodness in you." Her words were only for herself, but Yoda heard them. He understood her pain, but also understood that her hope was the same chain that bound Anakin to fear and attachment. Path of detachment he did not learn. Therefore he fell. Arriving at Mustafar, the vision was of a burning hell. The planet spat fire and lava, reflecting the state of Anakin's soul. The ship landed smoothly on the metallic platform, and Padme ran to him as soon as she saw him in the distance. "Anakin!" she cried out, her voice choked with emotion. The knight turned, his yellowed eyes revealing the corruption of the dark side. "You came to me," he said with a cold smile, distrust shining in his voice. "I'm here because I believe there is still goodness in you. We need to leave here, leave all this behind before it's too late." But his gaze hardened, and his voice became steel. "I have already built something greater than the Jedi Order. I can destroy the Emperor. I can rule the galaxy by your side. It is our destiny, Padme." She brought her hands to her face, desperate. "You are letting the desire for power decide for you." Before she could say more, a serene voice echoed from the shadows of the ship. "Controlled by fear you are. Slave of darkness you have become." Yoda emerged slowly, leaning on his cane, his eyes fixed on Anakin with regret. Surprise took hold of young Skywalker, who narrowed his gaze. "Master Yoda, so that's it. You came to hunt me. Not even you believe in me." Padme stepped back, still not understanding how Yoda had arrived there. Anakin felt his blood boil, anger growing like the eruptions around them. "You never trusted me. You always treated me like a threat. Well, now you will have reasons to fear. I will destroy anyone who tries to stop me." Yoda, without haste, removed his saber from his belt and ignited the green beam. "Face me. Good for you, it will not be, Skywalker." Padme, desperate, raised her hands between them. "No, please, don't do this. Anakin, listen to my heart. Not your anger." But her words were ignored. With a brusque gesture, Anakin used the Force to push her against the ship, making her faint as she fell on the metallic floor. The crack of energy broke the silence when he activated his blue saber, the blade shining in defiance. Anakin pointed the weapon at Yoda, his voice charged with hatred. "You won't stop me. Not you, not anyone. The galaxy is mine." The small master turned his wrist, raising the green saber on guard. "Stop you, I must. If not, all we will lose." The flames of Mustafar reflected on the two warriors, transforming the scene into a stage of tragedy. Anakin advanced in fury, and Yoda leaped, ready to face the Chosen One. The sound of sabers echoed through the heavy air of Mustafar, accompanying the roar of eruptions that shook the planet. Anakin advanced with fury, striking with an almost superhuman force, driven by hatred. Yoda spun, dodging with surprising agility, blocking each attack with absolute precision. The blue and green blades cut through the air, illuminating the platform like lightning. "Your hatred, against you it will turn," said Yoda, while young Skywalker shouted, "My hatred is my strength." With each blow, Anakin's rage increased. He used quick lunges, force impulses, aggressive jumps, trying to crush the small master with pure violence. But Yoda remained serene, his movements flowing like water, spinning with dexterity. "Much you have learned, young Skywalker, but blind you are by your pain." The heat of the lava rose, reflecting on Anakin's distorted face, who roared, "You underestimated me my whole life. Now I am more powerful than all of you together." The duel dragged across the walkways, sparks jumping with each impact. At a certain moment, Anakin managed to launch such a brutal blow that Yoda was thrown backward, almost falling into the lava abyss. The Jedi advanced for the final attack, but the Master leaped with the Force, rising in the air and landing behind him. "Reckless you are, if you think you have already won." Anakin's response was to turn and attack with even more fury, ignoring any caution. Yoda perceived the opening that the young one left in his movements. While Anakin struck excessively, dominated by haste, the Master counterattacked with precision. Each of Yoda's defenses became an opportunity to wound Skywalker's pride, who became more desperate. The green saber easily deflected the blue blows until Yoda prepared the decisive counterstrike. In an agile spin, Yoda leaped over Anakin's attack and, with a precise cut, struck the young man's mechanical arm, separating it from his body. The cry of pain echoed amid the planet's roar. But Yoda did not hesitate. He saw the tragedy already sealed and, in the same leap, concluded the attack. The green blade descended with impressive speed, striking Anakin's legs and cutting them below the knees. The young man fell immediately, rolling across the metallic floor until he stopped near the edge of the platform. His screams mixed with the lava explosions, his fury now transformed into despair. Even on the ground, Anakin still shouted with hatred, "I will destroy all of you. I will come back stronger than ever. You cannot stop me." Yoda remained motionless, looking at him with regret. "Choices, yours they were. Consequences, now you reap." His saber slowly extinguished as he turned his back on the defeated young man. Padme, still unconscious near the ship, was the reminder that tied Yoda to the mission. He extended his hand and, with the Force, gently lifted her body, guiding it into the ship. His eyes turned one last time to Anakin, who was dragging himself on the ground, trying to approach. "Kill me, then," Anakin shouted, in despair. But Yoda only responded, "No, not my way it is." The ship began to prepare for takeoff, while Anakin crawled, feeling the heat of the lava increasingly closer. His anger did not diminish, but his body no longer obeyed him. "I will hunt you, Yoda. I will hunt all of you." The small master, already inside the ship with Padme, closed his eyes. Perhaps, but not today. Today, hope lives still. When the engines ignited, the noise drowned out Anakin's screams, which were lost in the lava's roar. Yoda held Padme carefully, feeling her fragile life in his hands. The ship took flight, leaving the mutilated young man alone on Mustafar, his body burning from the relentless heat. Anakin, fallen, looked at the burning sky, his eyes burning with hatred. Each breath was a torment, but his mind did not think of giving up. The fire reflected his new destiny, a being rebuilt by the dark side. As the ship disappeared among the clouds, he swore, "I will not end here. I will still rise." Yoda, in turn, guided the ship toward Polis Massa. The weight of his decision accompanied him. Chosen one he was, but fell. Now others will be born. In them, new hope there will be. Padme's fragile breathing was the only reminder that something could still be saved. The Master knew that the fight against darkness was far from over. Palpatine's transport landed on Mustafar, the platform still illuminated by the planet's flames. Guards descended hastily, and the Chancellor himself walked with a cold gaze until he found Anakin's body. "My young apprentice," he murmured, almost as if it were a lament, but his voice carried satisfaction. Anakin, covered in sweat, raised his head and, even weak, recognized the Dark Master's presence. With a gesture, Palpatine ordered the guards to lift him. He approached, placing his hand on the wounded young man's shoulder. "You will still live, Lord Vader. The galaxy cannot lose the Chosen One." Anakin, even between pain and hatred, only clenched his teeth, feeling once again like a piece in a game he did not control. The ship took flight, leaving behind the planet of flames, carrying with it the one who would still be the Empire's greatest weapon. Meanwhile, in Polis Massa, the atmosphere was completely different. Padme, brought by Yoda, rested on a medical stretcher. Her vital signs were weak, and the silent crying of Obi-Wan and Bail echoed through the medical center. Yoda remained beside her, silent, aware that her life was fading. Strong she must be. The light, in her ends, but in the child, continues. The tension in the air increased when the medical droids warned that labor was beginning. The first cry filled the room, and Obi-Wan leaned in, holding the small baby. "It's a boy." Bail looked at him in amazement, and Padme, with a thread of voice, murmured, "Luke." Seconds later, the second cry echoed, surprising everyone. "It's a girl." With her last strength, Padme smiled, tears streaming from her eyes. "Leia," she said, before her eyes closed slowly, never to open again. Obi-Wan held her, devastated. At the same instant, Palpatine's ship landed on Coruscant, taking Anakin to the Empire's specialized doctors. The young man's body was restored with mechanical limbs, arms and legs replaced by advanced prosthetics, but his appearance remained human. Different from the fate that awaited him in the flames, he did not carry a mask or armor. His face, though marked by pain, was still the same as always. Days later, Anakin awoke in a medical chamber, feeling the weight of artificial limbs. Beside him, Palpatine watched him with that cynical smile. "You have been reborn, Lord Vader, stronger than ever." Anakin moved his metallic arm, hearing the mechanical sound, and closed his fist with force. His cold gaze did not hide the fury growing inside him. "Where is Padme? Is she well?" Palpatine, feigning regret, approached slowly, his voice loaded with false melancholy. "No. In your anger you destroyed her. Padme did not survive. And the child is also gone." The words cut like blades in Anakin's heart. His chest rose with accelerated breathing, eyes wide in despair. "No, it cannot be," he murmured, feeling the world collapse around him. Images of Padme smiling, speaking of hope and future, arose in his mind like stabs. The memory of her touch, of the promise of a life together, now turned to ash. Anakin looked at Palpatine, and in his gaze there was not only pain, but the clear perception of the lie. "You promised she would live. You said you could save her." His voice was a roar, echoing through the metallic walls of the room. Palpatine raised his hands theatrically, feigning lament. "I gave you the power, but it was your fury that destroyed her. It was you, my young apprentice, who sealed this fate." With each word, Guilt was pushed onto Anakin's shoulders, but instead of submission, only fury grew. Rage exploded from within him. Anakin rose from the medical table, the new mechanical limbs firm, and walked toward the Dark Master. "No, this is your fault. You deceived me, used me like a puppet, said you would save her." His metallic fist closed, trembling with hatred, each syllable charged with a fury that Palpatine did not expect. "Control your anger, Lord Vader," said the Sith in a low tone, almost threatening. "Now you are more than a Jedi, more than a man. Together we can rebuild everything you lost." But Anakin interrupted, his gaze sparking with hatred. "Don't call me Lord Vader." Palpatine remained motionless, measuring each reaction of the young man. For the first time, in his eyes arose the shadow of caution. The silence of the room weighed like iron, cut only by the sound of medical machines. Anakin took another step forward, breathing interrupted by hatred, the mechanical fist raised in defiance. "This is all your fault," he murmured, each syllable charged with threat. Palpatine, after a brief silence, let escape a slight cynical smile and responded coldly, "Calm down, Lord Vader." And the fate of the galaxy was suspended in this instant. Anakin remained in silence for a few moments, looking at the newly constructed mechanical limbs. He raised his right hand, opening and closing the metallic fingers, feeling the power of the new force that ran through his body. The rage in his eyes grew like an uncontrolled fire. Each movement was firm, without pain, without limitations. "You transformed me, but now I am stronger than ever," he murmured, without averting his gaze from Palpatine. The Dark Master watched, satisfied, believing that submission would come naturally. "Yes, my young one, you are now Lord Vader. Together." But the words were interrupted when Anakin advanced with furious determination, the blue saber igniting with violence. "Don't call me that," he shouted, his hatred exploding like thunder. Palpatine tried to raise his hands, but his energy was weakened after the recent confrontation against Windu. The old Sith resorted to his last resource. Blue rays of energy exploded from his hands, illuminating the room in deadly flashes. Anakin raised his arms and, for the first time, defended the attacks not only with the saber, but also with the Force itself. The discharges ricocheted, crackling around, but the young man advanced without retreating. His eyes burned with fury. "You won't stop me," Palpatine screamed with effort, but his exhaustion took its toll. Each ray launched was repelled by Anakin's devastating momentum, who walked slowly toward him like a predator certain of his prey, advancing through the energy storm until his saber finally found space for the attack. In a quick and devastating cut, the blue blade pierced through the Emperor's wrists, cutting his deformed hands. The cry of pain echoed as he fell to his knees, defeated by his own creation. Palpatine raised his eyes, panting, terror stamped on his face. "Recognize this scene?" said Anakin, his voice charged with venom, remembering when he had defeated Dooku under the orders of the Sith himself. Palpatine tried to articulate a plea. "Anakin, wait, we can." But he did not have time to conclude. Anakin's saber descended in a single movement, cutting his head definitively. The Emperor's body fell lifeless, and absolute silence took over the room. For the first time, the galaxy was without Palpatine, and it was Anakin Skywalker who remained standing. He turned off the saber, walking to the exit, where the clone commanders awaited in expectation. The silence was broken by his firm voice, charged with absolute authority. "The Emperor is dead. Now, I am the ruler of the entire galaxy." The commanders, in unison, bowed their heads, accepting the new sovereign. His first order echoed like thunder. "Find Yoda and Obi-Wan. You will not rest until they are located. Track every exit, every route, every refuge." Imperial officers immediately activated the systems, searching through transport records and escape signals from Mustafar. It did not take long until Polis Massa appeared in the reports as a suspicious point. Anakin, taken by fury, immediately embarked with his troops toward the small medical center. The silence of space only increased his anxiety. They won't escape from me. Not anymore. When they finally arrived, they found the base already empty. The facilities were in ruins, but the medical droids still maintained intact records. In the files, the data projected the image, the birth of 2 children. Anakin watched in silence, his heart racing. The droid's words were cold. 2 healthy newborns. His eyes widened, breathing heavy. "My children," he murmured, as if he could barely believe it. The Force confirmed to him, in powerful whispers, the presence of the little ones somewhere distant. He closed his eyes for an instant, allowing himself to feel. The energy was clear. It pulsed in his soul. "I can feel them. They exist. They are alive." His voice mixed pain and hope, but mainly determination. The clones watched him, attentive, while the flame of fury reignited in his eyes. "They won't hide from me, neither Yoda nor Obi-Wan. My children will be found. And when that happens..." He raised his head, his presence dominating the entire room. "The entire galaxy will know the power of the true Emperor." And the hunt had only begun. After leaving Polis Massa in ruins, Anakin ordered the Imperial officers to cross all possible escape records. The medical droids had confirmed the birth of 2 children, but no clue indicated where they had been taken. With growing anger, he demanded they analyze every route registered in the last hours. Among the names found, one caught his attention like a flame in the dark: Bail Organa. The senator of Alderaan's ship had left Polis Massa shortly after the birth, in a discreet vessel. For Anakin, this was not coincidence. It was destiny. Bail, always too close to Obi-Wan and the Jedi. "He knows something," he declared coldly. His voice echoed in the Imperial hangar, and the commanders registered the new order. "Track him to the last corner. If he takes my children with him, Alderaan will know the weight of my wrath." The Imperial fleet accompanied Anakin's ship to the peaceful planet. Alderaan, with its green fields and clean skies, seemed untouched by war, but the arrival of the Empire's ships tore through its tranquility. The population retreated frightened, and the royal palace was surrounded by heavy troops. Anakin descended from the ramp, the black cape billowing, and his gaze charged with fury fixed on the heart of the palace. Inside, Bail Organa had already been informed of the arrival. He felt the weight of the inevitable, but did not retreat. He prepared to face Anakin face to face, even knowing that young Skywalker was no longer the same man of old. When the gates opened, the metallic sound of Anakin's steps filled the hall. Bail awaited him on the royal throne, firm, but the tension in his eyes revealed the gravity of the moment. Anakin walked to the center of the hall, his hand on the saber, his eyes burned like embers. "I feel their presence here, Organa. My children. Don't try to deny it." Bail kept his tone firm. "You lost Padme. Don't drag these children into darkness with you." Anakin narrowed his gaze, his voice transforming into thunder. "You dare lie to me? I feel them. And I will find them, even if I have to bring down this palace on your head." In the next instant, another sound filled the air, the hum of a blue saber being activated. Obi-Wan emerged from the side, positioning himself between Bail and Anakin. His countenance carried pain but also decision. "You won't find them here, Anakin. Not this way." The young Emperor showed a bitter smile. "You, always in the way. First you stole my glory on the council, then you tried to take Padme from me. Now you will pay for it." Before the first blow was struck, another presence revealed itself. Small firm steps echoed through the hall, and Yoda appeared slowly descending the stairs, leaning on his cane. His eyes were fixed on Anakin, full of regret, but also of firmness. "Emperor you may be, but powerful enough. Still you are not Skywalker." The room fell silent, as if the Force itself held the air in expectation. Anakin roared with fury, activating his saber and advancing against Yoda. "You won't stop me again." The small master leaped with his impressive agility, spinning in the air and blocking each attack. Obi-Wan watched, ready to intervene, but Yoda held firm. The duel was fierce, the green and blue blades illuminating the royal hall. Anakin's screams echoed, increasingly dominated by hatred. With the same dexterity as on Mustafar, Yoda found the opening he needed. In a swift spin, his saber again cut Anakin's mechanical hand, making the blue saber fall to the floor. The young man's scream resonated through the palace, his fury mixed with pain. He fell to his knees, but before he could react, a voice interrupted the chaos. "Stop!" Bail emerged carrying in his arms 2 children wrapped in mantles. The entire hall fell silent. He approached Anakin, staring into his eyes. "This is Luke, your son, and this is Leia, your daughter. See how she has Padme's eyes." The words pierced through Anakin like lightning, freezing his anger in the same instant. Anakin looked at the children, as if time had stopped. His eyes trembled, and for a moment the fury disappeared. Padme's reflection was there, in small innocent faces. His breathing failed, the saber fell from his hand, and silence took over the room. Obi-Wan took a step forward, seizing the moment. "Anakin," he said with a firm voice, but charged with compassion. "There is still a way back. Return to the light. It is not too late." The young man, paralyzed before his children, felt the force pulse within him like never before. And, for the first time since his fall, doubt replaced hatred in his heart. The hall was still in silence when Anakin raised his teary eyes to Bail. The children in the senator's arms seemed to illuminate the darkness in his soul. With a choked voice, he asked, "Where is Padme's body?" Bail took a deep breath before responding. "She will be taken to Naboo to rest in her homeland." Those words struck Anakin like a blow. He fell in tears, bending under the weight of irreparable loss. Obi-Wan approached, but his voice had no judgment, only hope. "Anakin, your children are here. There is still time to return. End this madness, return power to the Senate and bring back peace. You don't need to be a slave to darkness." Anakin slowly raised his head, his gaze divided between rage and redemption. The presence of Luke and Leia, so fragile and innocent, weighed more than any ambition. He wiped the tears with his metallic hand, breathing deeply. "I will do this, but first we all go to Naboo." The tone in his voice mixed pain and firmness, as if he were finally accepting the consequences. Obi-Wan nodded in silence, and Yoda closed his eyes for an instant, feeling that the Force had begun to restore balance. The journey to Naboo was silent, charged with opposing feelings. Yoda remained in meditation, Obi-Wan observed the twins in their improvised cribs, and Bail kept his gaze firm, knowing that the next steps would define the Republic's future. Anakin, however, remained isolated, staring into the void, as if seeking answers in silence. At Padme's funeral, the streets were filled with flowers and laments, the senator's figure revered as a symbol of hope. Anakin walked ahead, wearing simple garments, without the pomp of an emperor. In his hands he carried white flowers, which he placed on the coffin. He remained in silence for long minutes, before whispering, "Forgive me, my love. I will try to repair what I did." Yoda and Obi-Wan were nearby, observing the moment. For them, this was the chosen one's turning point. Anger seemed to finally give way to regret. Bail, with the twins in his arms, approached in silence, allowing Anakin to observe them once more before the mother's tomb. It was as if the Force had united everyone in that instant of farewell. Days later, Anakin convened the Senate. In a speech charged with emotion, he announced the end of the Empire and returned the usurped powers. The impact was profound. Many doubted, but the majority saw in that attitude proof that Skywalker was not lost. In exchange for the return of powers, Anakin received amnesty. He would not be judged for his crimes, but would live under surveillance, dedicated to raising his children in Naboo. There, amid the gardens and rivers that Padme so loved, young Skywalker tried to rebuild his life. Luke and Leia were the center of his existence, the reason not to give up. Obi-Wan and Yoda visited frequently, guiding Anakin and accompanying the twins' growth. Gradually, The two masters began the reconstruction of the Jedi Order, raising a new temple that would not repeat the mistakes of the past. Anakin, however, carried a shadow in his gaze. His brightness never fully returned. It was as if part of his soul had remained on Mustafar in that moment of fall. Over the years, Luke began to grow, revealing a vibrant, impulsive energy that reminded Anakin of his youth. The father saw in him his reflection, a reminder of who he had been and whom he needed to guide so as not to repeat his mistakes. Leia, in turn, inherited Padme's intelligence and firmness. Her eyes, so similar to her mother's, brought Anakin a gentle relief. Leia drew closer and closer to Bail, hearing from him stories about her mother. His words inspired her, and she began to demonstrate aptitude for politics, just like Padme. Luke, on the other hand, was taken by Anakin to the new Jedi Temple, where he was accepted as a Padawan. The council, formed by Obi-Wan and Yoda, allowed Skywalker himself to be his master. In that reunion with destiny, Anakin once again wielded the saber not as Lord of Darkness, but as master of the new generation. With each step Luke took, he remembered his own journey, and in each of Leia's glances, he saw the lost love. Slowly, an old Anakin began to be reborn. The Force pulsed again, bringing not glory, but the promise of redemption.